Hello guys, welcome back again to my channel. This is Ses Fashion. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make this beautiful shawl colored draped wrap dress. Stay tuned, make sure to watch to the end, and don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe. So guys, this is my already drafted basic bodice, and this will serve as my back piece. I'll also be using this to cut out the front piece. Basically, this pattern has a neck width of 3 inches and 1.5-inch depth. All sewing allowances are added to this pattern, including the hemming allowance. So I'm not going to be adding any allowance while I draft this dress. So now let's proceed to draft the front piece. In order to ensure that the dress actually wraps in front, I went ahead to place the back piece on a plain pattern, leaving 5 inch in front of the pattern. This now will serve as the wrap allowance. I'm going ahead to extend my waistline from the waist point. From that waistline, I'll go up by 1 inch, and this is to determine the breaking point where the collar is going to start from. And from that 1 inch point, which we have raised, I'll then draw a straight line to meet the neckline like so. Once that is done, we need to create our collar, and to do that, I just noticed that my paper wasn't enough at the top, so I went ahead and added extra. So make sure that you have enough space around while you're drafting. Remember, the neck width we used for the back basic bodice pattern was 3 inches. So I'm going to be taking 3 inches from here upwards, and then I'll extend this line to meet up with the 3-inch point. Now from this point, I'll take ½ inch backwards like this and connect down to meet this slant like so. The point of doing this is to make sure that the collar sits nicely behind the back. Next thing is to determine how wide I want my collar to be. For me, I'm making use of 3 inches. You can increase or decrease this depending on your preference. Now I'm just going to square this up, and then I'll determine the shape I want. First of all, use a pen to draft a shape I like. There's actually no rule to this. You can just do any freestyle to whatever shape you like. Once I'm satisfied with what I have, I'll just go ahead and trace out this line with my marker like so. That is it basically for the collar. Just watch carefully how I cut this out. Aside the collar, every other thing is basically the same as the back piece. So now that I'm done cutting that out, I'll just go ahead and label the back because it is going to be cut on fold along this area. I'll also write back here so we don't get things mixed up. For the front piece, I cut 2 of them, and I also transferred my lines because they are very necessary when we are going to be slashing and spreading. What I'll do next is to decide which side of the wrap I want to be outside and which will go in, because I'm going to alter one side, and also the slash gap isn't the same for the two. The inside piece doesn't have as much drape as the outside piece. The reason is so that it doesn't bulge out in the waist area after sewing. So after deciding which side I'm okay with, I'll go ahead to label them down so I know which is which, and I'll call this the out front while this is the in front. So basically it's going to look like this when I'm done. The out front on top of the in front. Now let's begin our slashing and spreading, and I'll start with the in front. The first thing is to decide how we want the drape to be. For this outfit, the concentration is around the waist area and the pleat starts just below the lapel. So what I'm going to do is, from this waistline, I'll mark up 1 inch from here, and then I'm going to decide how wide I want the pleats to be. Here I'm marking down 5 inches. After that, I'll then connect this point to meet the under bust like this. Also from here, I'll connect down to meet the hip line. Next thing is to draw my lines across like this. I'll be maintaining the waistline as one of my lines. So in total, I have 5 lines marked down. So I'm just going to cut through each line and then proceed to slash and spread. But before I do that, I'm going to number them accordingly and then cut through. To begin my slash and spread, I went ahead to introduce a fresh pattern paper, and I'll bring over my slash spaces, making sure that I have all 6 numbers on board. Always make sure to tape down so it stays in place. So this particular spread is just for the in front. Like I said earlier, the in front is not going to have as much spread as the out front. That's because we don't want any bulge around the waist when we're done sewing. So for the in front, I'll be spreading by 1 inch. I'm just going to open up my slash line at that 1 inch point. We will not be adding any volume to the side of this dress. We are only going to add volume to the part we intend to pleat. After that, we'll open up the second line as well with the same 1 inch. Make sure that the edges are well laid. Tape down at every point so that there are no wrinkles anywhere. So basically, I'll be spreading each line with 1 inch each like this. I'm through with my slash and spread, and this is what my pattern looks like so far. Right here, I'll connect this point with a smooth curve and then we'll be cutting this out. Going over to my out front, I'll be slashing and spreading the same way, except that the spreading for this will be 2 inches each. So just like I did for the in front, I'll draw my lines across, cut through and number down. I'll be spreading this by 2 inches, and at the sides I'll make sure to align them accordingly. On each line I gave in 2 inch space in between them. You will know for the front we gave 1 inch, but for this out front I will be adding 2 inches instead of 1 inch. So basically the drape in the out front is much more than the drape on the in front. So once I'm done, I'm just cutting this out like so. Now that I'm done slashing and spreading, I have 2 sides, both the in front and the out front ready. Now going over to the out front, at this hemline I'll mark in 2 inches and draw a slant like this to meet this point, because you know the out front is not exactly straight on the down part of the dress. So that's it guys, we're done with our 2 pieces. This is the in front and the out front placed here like so. So we'll just go over and cut out on our fabrics. I've gone ahead to transfer my pattern to my fabric, and here I'm using this beautiful Duchess material. I got 3.5 yards of this material to achieve this design. And for this back piece, I'm not going to be adding any sewing allowance because my pattern has all the sewing allowance added to them, including the hemming allowance. But if yours doesn't have any allowance, make sure to do so while cutting on your fabric. So for the front pattern, I also transferred to my fabric, leaving half-inch sewing allowance from the lapel all through to the hem. The size and shoulder remains the same. No sewing allowance are added at that part. I also went ahead to notch the part where my slash begins and also where it ends. So make sure to do that so you can know where the pleat begins and where it stops while sewing. So this is my in front, and same way I cut the in front, I'll also be cutting the out front, adding allowance only at the lapel area all through to the hem. So the trick is this: since we have 2 sides of our pattern cut out already, make sure to place each of them on the right size of the fabric before cutting, so you don't have same side for the left and the right. cut in such a way that the right sides face each other. The next thing we're going to do is to cut the facing for this dress, because this dress has to be lined in order to be neatly finished. So I'm going ahead to close up these slash lines because we will not be needing them for the facing. After that, I'll be marking out how wide I want the facing to be. And up here, because I'll be folding the inside outwards to create the lapel, I'll make sure it is wide enough to accommodate that. So I'll be placing 7 inch along here. Going over to the part where we have the drape, I will mark down 3 inches because we do not want any obstruction in this area. We want our drape to be as free as possible so it can express itself. So basically, I'm marking 3 inches from here all the way to the hem. I will then connect the 7 inch mark down to meet the 3 inch mark like so, after which I'll cut out. Just the way I closed up my out front to create the facing, I'll also do the same thing for the in front. So I'm just going ahead to close this up, after which I'll be placing how wide I want the facing to be. Just exactly the same way we did for the other side, we're also going to do it for this side. Before transferring this to my fabric, I'll make sure it is cut on the opposite side of the main dress, so that by the time I turn it over, I'll have the right side of the facing on the wrong side of the dress. So I brought over our cut front piece and placed it on the fabric, ensuring that the right sides are facing each other. And then I'll place my facing accordingly, then cut, leaving ½ inch sewing allowance around the lapel all through to the hem, just like we did for the front pieces. For the other side, I also cut exactly the same way, leaving ½ inch around the lapel all through to the hem. For the back facing, remember that our back pattern will be cut on fold, so I'll be marking down 4 inches for the length of this facing. I'll mark 4 inches here, and at this point I'll be marking down 7 inches, after which I'll connect with a curve and then cut. I'm going ahead to indicate that this side will be cut on fold. Bringing over my fabric, I'll be folding it into two, and then I'll place the cut facing here, aligning the fold at this point, and I'll cut out. I went ahead to cut out ropes that will be attaching to this dress, and I cut out different lengths for the ropes. I cut one of 35 inches and the other is 45 inches. That's because the longer one has to go inwards to pass through the back before tying to the shorter one. So basically the longer rope is going to be attached to the inside front. So guys, to sew this, what I'm going to do is this. Remember the part where we notched, indicating the beginning and the end of our plate. I'm going to be pleating it back to the 5 inches we initially spread to get this. You can decide to pleat facing up or down depending on your preference. I've gone ahead to sew down my pleats, and the next thing I'm going to do is to attach my ropes and turn it over with a facing. So I went ahead to sew the ropes, turned it over to the right side and ironed down neatly. So watch carefully how I'll be joining these pieces. I'll first of all place the rope across here, and then I'll be placing the facing right side to right side just after the rope, and I'll be sewing using the ½ inch sewing allowance we added from here all through to the hem. So guys, before attaching the facing, I was supposed to iron my fusible interfacing on it, which I totally forgot, but along the line I opened it up to do that off camera though. So guys, don't be like me, ensure that you iron your fusible interfacing on top of the facing before attaching like this, just to give it that solidity. I've gone over to sew this down. This is what it looks like with the rope in between the main fabric and the facing. Also at the edge of the facing, I went ahead to turn it in just to give it a nice look on the inside. You can decide to just weave that part, which is still okay. After doing that, I'll go ahead to iron down using my hemming gum to glue it in place, and this is what it looks like when I'm done. And also this is what the outside looks like. You can see that the drape is beautifully formed. I went ahead to do same thing for the other piece, and bringing it over here, I'll be joining the necklines together. Just watch closely how I do this. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to be aligning the lines together, right sides facing each other, and I'm going to sew all the way from the facing to the main fabric. This is what it looks like after I'm done joining that together. Our dress is getting together little by little. Next thing is I'll bring over my back piece, and then I'll be joining to this front piece along the neckline and the shoulders. To do that, I'll notch the middle of the back piece, and I'll just align that on this line we have here on the front piece. Ensure that the right sides face each other, and I'll sew from the middle all round to both ends. This is what my dress looks like after I've joined the necklines. As you can see, I joined it all the way around the neck, all through to both shoulders. So basically, this part is going to be folded like this to create a lapel neckline. Going further, I'll be attaching the back facing at this point. I'll also notch the middle of this facing because I'll have to align it same way I sew the necklines. So basically, it's going to look like this when I'm done sewing. So just watch how I'm going to be attaching this. I'll turn it over to the other side, making sure that the right sides face each other. I'm going to resew on the previous line we first used to join our necklines together. After I'm done, I'll turn it back to the inside and iron down with my hemming gum to keep it in place. Also, I'll be joining the sides of our dress together, and on one side I'll make sure to leave about 1 inch opening on the waist so that we can pass our rope through it. Also, I'll be attaching my sleeves at this point. I'll first of all fold my fabric into two. I'll then fold again because I'll be cutting both sleeves at the same time. To draft the sleeves, I'll first of all determine the length we'll be using. Mine is 22.5 inches plus 2-inch hemming allowance and half-inch joining allowance, making it 25 inches. After I'm done marking that down, I'll then determine the sleeve cap height, and here I have 5 inches. To get the curve here, I'll first of all measure what I have on my pattern, and whatever I have here, I'll be transferring that to my sleeves. I'll just place my tape like this and then mark what I got before going ahead to draw an appropriate curve. For how wide I want my sleeve to be, I'll just extend the arm length all through to the hem like this. I'll make sure to notch the middle of this sleeve so it will be easier to attach to the dress when I'm done. I went ahead to fold in the hem of my sleeve, and this is what it looks like. Give it a neat press, and that is it, guys. So guys, we've come to the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you make yours as well. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can leave that down in the description box. Please like and share, and also subscribe to my channel. Bye.